Hello and welcome, I'm rFactor, and today I'm going to be taking you through my highlights from round 5 of the Virtual Le Mans Cup, the 2 hours of Sebring. Now, for those of you not familiar with the VLMC, it's an online sim racing championship for rFactor 2 consisting of 8 multi-class endurance races. The championship features both GT3 cars and the faster LMP3 cars, each taking part in their own individual races and scoring separate points but sharing the track at the same time. In this, my debut season, I'm driving the number 67 Aston Martin for the Zansho team as part of the GT3 class. It's been a bit of a rough ride so far though, with a few technical difficulties taking away some potentially decent results, but on the whole my pace has been respectable. There are some seriously fast guys I'm up against in this series though, with Lorenzo Arisi in the Waveframe esports car taking all but one win so far this season, and my Zansho teammate James Johnson not finishing below second in a single race so far this season too. Heading into this event, I'd had a bit of a break from the VLMC as I wasn't able to take part in the previous round at Interlagos. Thanks again to Lewis McGlade for stepping in at such short notice and getting a lovely haul of points, by the way. So yeah, I was feeling pretty refreshed and excited to get back out on track. Practice leading up to the event went well, with some awesome setup work as always from resident Zansho engineering wizard Nick Dealey. And when it got down to business in qualifying, I managed to put my car 12th on the grid. I was expecting a little bit better, being just a few tenths shy of my personal best time from practice, but the field was incredibly tight here as I was only 6 tenths off pole. It was however my teammate James Johnson who did claim that pole position in the GT3 class, with Luca D'Amelio leading the field away in the LMP3 cars up front. So away we go here at Sebring, holding formation on lap 1 until we cross the line to start lap 2 and release the speed limiter, starting in position 12. However, we don't get even 10 seconds into the race and Lorenzo Chiutis is in the fence and on the grass in the number 14 Drive Game Seed Racing LMP3 car, causing the first Code 80 of the race. Now he does have big damage, but keeps the car going and crawls it back around to the pits. Code 80 is effectively a virtual safety car where everybody has to get back on the limiter due to dangerous track conditions and respect the law set by Sean Jacobs, the race director. Now, rather bizarrely, Mathieu de Krop in the number 76 One Move esports car also comes into the pits at the end of lap 1 to serve a drive-through penalty, but that's not allowed. You can't serve penalties under Code 80, so he's going to have to come in and do that all again. Anyway, we cross the line and away we go on lap 3 to try again. James Johnson still leading the GT3 pack in the number 62 Zansho, but looks like Arisi has caught Nick De Silva napping at the restart. Makes a move immediately into turn 1, Arisi not wanting to fall too far behind the leader and minimise the points lost in the championship. Further back, I get the cutback on Marco Mazzetti in the number 74 Handy Racing car going into the hairpin for the first time to claim position 10, but unfortunately it wouldn't last for too long, as later in the lap I run wide at Le Mans corner and hand the position straight back, losing all momentum down the straights. Now, Tony Mello is driving his first race for Zansho in the 57 car and is running a strong position 4 until he runs wide at turn 5 after a slight tap from behind and drops down to position 9. Moving further up the field, looking at the LMP3s, there's one hell of a battle for position 6 here as Danilo Smeriglio, the winner of the previous round, is going at it with Ruben Correa Alves in the number 43 Scuderia Leone and Karen Sanzano in the number 9 Speedy Mite Racing, all going for P6, which gets a little bit dicey as we head into turn 5 here. Looks like Smeriglio gets turned around by Alves, but luckily there's no damage as he avoids the barrier and trundles across the grass to get back on track, only dropping a few spots in the process. And there's drama at the front of the GT3s too, as Lorenzo Arisi does a dive on James Johnson into the hairpin, who runs wide and hands position 2 over to Nick De Silva as well. Arisi is now back in the position we're all so familiar with seeing him in, leading the race. And at the end of the lap, I'm pulling a move on Mathieu de Krop ahead of me into the final corner for P10. Can't get him around the outside, but he does run a little bit wide, so I get the cut back, heading onto the main straight. Heading into turn 1, I'm on the outside again. Just can't make it stick. However, behind me, it looks like Fernandez taps Andy Dixie in the rear, sending him spinning into the barriers here at turn 3. That is massive damage, which is so disappointing for Dixie after he blew the engine last time out at Interlagos. He does manage to get it back to the pits after a few off-track excursions, which brings out the next Code 80 of the race. So, moving on to lap 7 here at Sebring, and the race resumes once again as the Code 80 finishes and the green flag drops, but I make a terrible restart behind Matthew Crop and lose a heap of time. Up at the head of the GT3s though, it's still a race out in front ahead of Nick De Silva, but Rick Van Early's getting in on the fight now in the number 63 Ground Effect Simracing car, makes an almighty dive onto James Johnson in the hairpin and makes slight contact on the exit. Little bit of damage there for JJ, but he puts the power down heading towards the next few corners and narrowly holds on to the final podium spot, getting the elbows out to keep hold of P3 for the moment. Further up the field though, there is even more carnage as Cameron Sanzano loses over the bumps into Sunset Corner and gives the barrier a hefty whack, immediately pulling the car around and heading into the pits to get some repairs. Lap number 8, and a few people are starting to peel off into the pits to serve some drive-through penalties. Seems like there was a lot of driving infringements from the previous round that needed to be addressed. Most notably Nick De Silva in the number 83 Speedy Mite Racing, who was running in second and fighting for the lead, now dropping back down to position 10. And with Mazzetti being forced onto the grass at Cunningham Corner rather unfairly there by the LMP3 of Antonello Miocchi in the number 29 Energy Racing LMP3, I find myself now inheriting P7. Nick De Silva's day, however, was about to go from bad to worse as he hits the bumps into turn 1 and gets some sudden snap oversteer, sending his car into the barriers where he overtakes one of his rear tyres in the run very sadly. Let's have a quick word from Nick himself about his thoughts on the race.
Well, here I am losing my Sebring virginity to the bumps. Sadly, it was a good race until then. Had some pace for the first time and practiced for the first time for this series, and won't be practicing again because every race I haven't practiced for we've done well. So, jokes to that, but no, it was a good race, just a shame to DNF.
No Code 80 required there as the Speedy Mac McLaren is instantly retired to the pits. However, up the road we can see Zansho teammate Tony Mello finally managing to find a way past Georgi Nedev in the number 97 Go Team racing car to reclaim position 5 rather spectacularly around the outside of Sunset Corner. And heading on to lap 10, it looks as if Rick Van Early is also in the pits for a drive-through penalty. And of course it wouldn't be a lap of VLMC Sebring without some sort of incident, and Mauro Dragoni in the number 65 Busters E-Racing car not failing to disappoint with a slide wide and impact into the barriers at the final corner. Moving on to lap 12, we can see Mazzetti spins directly behind me, which takes all the pressure off, and now that means my only concern is closing the gap down to Georgi Nedev, about 7 seconds ahead of me down the road. Meanwhile, out in front of the LMP3 class, it's still Luca D'Amelio in the number 33 Team Rookie Monsters with a comfortable gap back to Semit Chelek and Luca Burke. And of course, leading GT3 is Lorenzo Risi, but Johnson is now as close as he's ever been since running wide at the hairpin and is looking to make a move. Moving on to lap 18 here, and the traffic starts to come into play at Sebring as Ollie McGowan sideswipes David Nichols, going through Bishop Corner, pinballs him straight into the barriers, and gets collected by Rob Timpen. Let's have a look at the replay here, riding on board with Ollie McGowan in the number 38 Speedy Mite Racing car. Just taps Slim ever so slightly. Nichols in the 55 Satellite goes spinning around. Timpen's got nowhere to go but into the side of him. That number 46 Seawolf Net Race Motorsport car has a lot of damage, so does Nichols, as both cars get dragged back to the pits. Moving on to lap 19, and the drama continues as Philip Harkus in the number 10 Speedy Mite puts a lap on Kemal Kurtoglu, but runs wide through tower and runs out of grip and understeers into the barrier. Now he only loses one position, but there's a hell of a lot of damage on that car, and he does have to drag it back to the pits unfortunately, which would put him out of the race. Moving on to lap 21, and Tony Mello has been trying to find a way past Daniele Brambilla in the number 51 Witchwood RPM Esports car for third position for a few laps here, but Brambilla runs slightly wide out the final corner and Mello makes a great exit, gets a run down the main straight, is diving back to the inside in turn 1 and sneaks the position back up onto the podium spot in his first ever race for the team, solidifying a potentially great result with our cars currently running second, third, and with me in sixth, closing in on the cars ahead, but spoke too soon. Lap 22 and I make a scruffy mistake, checking my mirrors too much, looking at the LMP3s behind me and losing concentration when braking. I don't drop any positions, but I do drop a heap of time. But moving on to lap 23, and now yet more dramas as Timpin in the LMP3 puts a lap on early at the hairpin, but gets a whack from behind, spinning him round and putting him into the barrier's rear first, ending his race on the spot. And almost simultaneously, Mazzetti loses the rear coming out turn 1, and also whacks into the barrier, ending his race. And third, but not least, Mike McGear in the number 19 MT Racing also has a spin into the fence, damaging the rear suspension. Now he does get going again and attempts to make his way back to the pits, but loses control of the car, heading through Bishop Corner and parking it up in a rather dangerous position for the oncoming traffic, which means that with 3 separate incidents within the space of a few seconds, race director Sean Jacobs has no option but to call the third Code 80 of the race and neutralize the field. Heading on to lap 24, and there's 1 hour and 10 minutes remaining in the race, which is just shy of the pit stop window for the GT3 cars, which can only just manage an hour on a full tank at best.
Just make sure no one pits, please.
Brambilla pits.
Too early.
Idiot.
Yeah, it's way too early.
Sector 3 is
That's
clear.
him out of the race. And that's a position for you, Dan.
Woohoo! So yeah, Brambilla decides to roll the dice here and comes into the pits. Now, unless there are several more Code 80s in the second half of the race, or he can do some serious fuel saving, he's going to have to stop again, which promotes me up to 5th. And green flag on lap 25, and we're back underway, and immediately Jeffrey Becker in the number 17 OSR Endurance LMP3 backs it into the wall at turn 3. After a brief pause, he does get going again, but with heavy rear damage, he limps the car back to the pits. No Code 80 required this time though, as he's got it under control and is not posing a danger to others. That wouldn't last for long though, as on the very next lap, Semi Celik in the number 39 Caspian Motorsport approaches Artur Sitskula in the 90 Sakura Racing to lap him, but just gets plain run into, sending both cars spinning and into the barriers with massive damage. Let's have a look at the replay from Mantis Rakers in the number 73 Team Rookie Monsters and Ogre Zonsel in the number 79 Caspian Motorsports Junior car, with some amazing avoiding action on both parts. Celik gets going again, but the car has a little bit of a spin a few corners later due to the damage caused, and Sean Jacobs once again is on the radio calling another Code 80 and neutralizing the field, also taking a moment to voice his concerns to us drivers.
So this race has definitely gotten quite messy. I think everyone just needs to cool it slightly. Yeah, respect traffic and that, and we just need to cool it down a little bit, or you're just going to spend the rest of the race under Code 80, which is no fun for anyone.
Are we going green?
Alright, so we're going to go back to green in
green.
10 seconds.
I want to pit now.
Go back to green 10 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, green flag.
Lap 28 and the race finally gets underway once more. I'm now only 4 seconds behind Nedev, hunting him down for 4th place. Could I finally get the result I've been chasing all season and show some of the potential I have in the car? Now lap 30, and with both JJ and Arisi in the pits ahead of me, I found myself temporarily up to position 2, but it's finally time to come in for some new tyres and some fuel. Now with all the Code 80s early in the race, it meant I was able to extend my stint from 1 hour to 1 hour 10 minutes, meaning I could now flat out sprint to the end of the race with no fuel saving and full revs. In hindsight though, maybe I shouldn't have changed the tyres and also waited a few more laps to short fill the car and have a shorter pit stop, but hey, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Moving on to lap 31, and unfortunately I came out of the pits right behind Kemal Kurtoglu in the number 75 Caspian Motorsports car, and he appeared to be struggling. I'm needing to find a way past ASAP so I don't lose any gap to Nedev, and going into the final corner I try the outside, but he just bumps me. I take my usual line, he takes his usual line, and we meet in the middle, so just one of those racing incidents. Now I didn't want to run too wide onto the dirty part of the track and bin it in the fence, so let's have a look at the replay. Yep, just a slight tap on the inside, no one's fault really. I'm getting the cutback though, hoping to get a run on him down into turn 1 on the outside, but one of the LMP3s has different ideas, lapping both of us, which kind of puts us both offline. And heading down to turn 3, he squeezes me towards the inside, not leaving me much room, and as I ride on board with myself here, he just closes the door at the apex, which made me a little bit cranky at the time. It's a bit messy here as we're both sliding all over the track, and again into turn 5 he closes the door. Obviously I am not happy at this particular moment in the race, and yeah, just I need to find a way past this guy ASAP. Now, we got a heap of LMP3s coming up behind us to lap us as well, so that just adds even more drama into the mix as Matthew de Krop in the one move car is getting ever closer behind us. I run wide because of the LMP3s, and Matthew de Krop seizes the opportunity, gets a good run on me coming out of the hairpin, and gets the position, dropping me back down again into position 11. Riding on board with one of the LMP3s here looking back, you can see de Krop making the move on the insides. Just hanging me out to dry, losing me a heap of time and leaving me nowhere to go really. However, moving along to lap 33, and this time round I'm not going to let Kemal Kurtoglu hold me up any longer. I get a good run off turn 5 and I move towards the inside. He's squeezing me, he's squeezing me. I got to be late on the brakes as we go 3 wide, and LMP3 on the left of both of us. Hold it tight on the apex in the hairpin and get the position. Finally make my way past him, back up to P9 with my sights set well and truly on de Krop and Nedev down the road. Lap 35, and we have a couple of close calls for both of the Speedy Mate LMP3s here, as Ollie McGowan in the number 38 and Alexander Jones in the number 48 have wobbles within seconds of each other on different parts of the track. Of course, earlier in the race, fellow Speedy Mate racers De Silva and Philip Parkers are already out, with Andy Dixie having a major issue of his own too. Lap 39, and Tony Mello is up to 4th and patiently waiting to cycle back up to 3rd once Brambilla comes in for his second stop. Heading towards the hairpin here, trying to put a lap on fellow GT3 cars, Onsel and Ted Delaney, but Onsel sends it up the inside of the hairpin and pits Ted Delaney into a half spin directly into the side of Mella. Minor damage for Mella in the Zansho there, but he can continue, just showing the dangers of the traffic. And on lap 40, we have another Speedy Mite in the fence, Cameron Sanzano, losing the rear going through Sunset at the end of the lap here in the number 9 Speedy Mite Racing LMP3, patiently waiting for the traffic to go by so he can get back on with his race. However, lap number 43 and Jeffrey Becker in the number 17 OSR Endurance is attempting to put the lap on Paolo Tedolini and taps him going through the Le Mans corner on the rear, sending him spinning, and with Becker himself also losing control shortly after and facing the wrong way on the back straight. Now let's have a quick look at the replay. We can see here coming through the Le Mans corner, Paolo Tedolini losing control and Jeffrey Becker going one way and the other, and there's myself and the Zansho very close to the reversing car of the Busters E-Racing Porsche. Definitely on the lucky side there, avoiding that one. But my luck was about to run out big time as I head on to lap 47, go through turn 1. I have exactly the same snap oversteer that Nick De Silva had early in the race. Massive contact into the barriers there. Oh.
Master car approaching. He's racing us for position. Don't expect a blue. Yellow flag in sector 1.
In the fence, turn 1. Big damage. Big damage. Race over.
Damage. You might need to come in and get it fixed.
Sorry, Dan.
Orders for cutting the track. Keep it between the white lines.
Can't get it back to the pits.
I'll try, but I'm left hand down 90 degrees.
27 seconds.
Oh, I just snapped in turn 1. Lost the rear. So there we go. After running a very strong first 3 quarters of the race, we were potentially on for position 4 and just lost the rear of the car, slamming it into the barriers in turn 1 and ending the race pretty much on the spot. Massive disappointment. Massive disappointment. Now obviously I do manage to crawl back to the pits and come in for some repairs, but with a pit stop of 3 minutes, that there's not really much you can do to come back from that. We do end up coming out back onto the track in 15th position ahead of Andy Dixie in the Speedy Mite, but he will get us before the end of the race and we will ultimately finish in 16th position. There's plenty of fight left in this race though. As we head on to lap 49, we've got Rafiki Afiat versus familiar face Mantis Rakus in the Team Rookie Monsters car. Afiat on the outside, but Rakus tips him into the barriers and sends the car hurtling through the air. Let's have a quick look at the replay on that, shall we? We've got the number 73 Team Rookie Monsters car on the inside and just racing instant, but there's nowhere really for the number 66 HM Engineering car to go apart from through the air for a few hundred meters now, focusing back on the lead of the GT3s. Lap 50, we've got James Johnson hunting down Lorenzo Risi for second place. We have Brambilla still out in the lead, of course, but he is lapping 5 seconds a lap slower at this point, desperately trying to save fuel. Looks like that second pit stop is inevitable. Moving our focus up towards the LMP3s again, we're riding on board with Simon Marshall in the number 37 Team Rookie Monsters car on his debut VLMC performance this season, holding on to a fantastic third place from Ruben Correa Alves in the number 43 Scuderia Leone. And he would actually hold on to that position all the way to the checkered flag, so let's have a quick chat with Simon after the race.
I wasn't expecting to be this high up. A top 10 finish was my goal, but I'm over the moon with third. I was nursing my tyres at the start to ensure they lasted the 2 hours, and I was very cautious in the first half. This was my first time as a faster prototype car in a multi-class event, so I was a little nervous, especially when lapping the GT3s for the first time. I managed to stay out of trouble, and I still had an undamaged car at the end, so I was in good shape to fight for that last podium position.
Top stuff, Simon. Awesome result on your debut there, mate. But now we move on to lap number 54, and as we head into the final corner, James Johnson is all over the back of Lorenzo Risi for the lead of the GT3 race. Can't quite get him through the final corner. Now heading on to lap 55, JJ's all over the back of him, but has nowhere to go and gives him a little tag as we go over the start-finish line. Arisi brushing the wall there, so obviously JJ just backs out of it a little bit, gentleman's agreement, gives him the place of course, and makes sure he doesn't get a penalty. The two championship contenders going at it for the win on the final lap of the race. Fantastic, and JJ's on the outside on lap 56. Massive slide. How does he keep hold of that? Let's have a quick check of the replay and see what happened there. So he just goes in too hard, and we get a nice little slow-mo here. We can see his that's a lot of slip angle, JJ. That's not how you go fast around turn 1 here at Sebring, but unfortunately he just couldn't find a way past. Now all the way out in the lead, Luca D'Amelio in the LMP3 takes a rather uneventful win by over 50 seconds from Luca Berg, but eyes back on GT3 for the final corner as James Johnson is giving it everything he's got, but just cannot find a way past Arisi, who makes it 4 wins out of 5 this season. How impressive is that? Now, unfortunately, we do have to look further down the field as I rather despondently drag the number 67 Zansho Aston Martin car home in 16th place, lamenting what could have been potentially on for my best result of the season, chasing down 4th place at one point. Now, let's have a look at the rest of the field and see how they survived the bumps of Sebring. So, confirmation there that the number 33 Team Rookie Monsters car of Luca D'Amelio takes his 2nd win of the season. Number 5 Speedy Mike Luca Berg continues his massively impressive run of podiums in every single race this season with another solid 2nd place. And rounding out the podium, like we mentioned just before, is the number 37 Team Rookie Monsters car of Simon Marshall, getting a podium on his first race of the season. Now, looking further down the field, we can see that it is actually 2 DNFs in a row for the number 46 Seawolf Net Race Motorsport car of Rob Timpen and the number 10 Speedy Mike Racing LMP3 of Lazaros Filiparkos. Those DNFs in today's race are definitely not going to do them any favours. And moving on to GT3s, we can see there that Lorenzo Arisi takes the win, making it 4 out of 5 this season. Absolutely incredible form, and JJ rounding off the 2nd place again this season, making it another 4 out of 5 for him. These guys are absolutely inseparable, and massively impressive performance there for Tony Mella, also completing the symmetry of the podium on debut, getting a 3rd place in his first race for Zansho. Now, looking further down the field, Daniele Brambilla obviously didn't make the long strategy work. He came home 4th after a late pit stop in the race, with Matty de Krop finally getting a solid result on the board with 5th. My immediate championship rivals, Nedev and Rakers, coming home 6th and 7th, and if we look even further down the field, it is a massively disappointing result for the Speedy Mike McLarens, who showed so much promise after qualifying, with Dixie ending up in 15th, and Nick De Silva, who was actually running in 2nd at the start of the race, ending with a DNF. Most disappointing of all, though, is myself, down in 16th. Such a letdown after running in a potential solid top 5. So as we take a look at the overall standings, we can see at the top of the LMP3 Championship, Luca Berg's consistency is putting him out front by a mere 5 points from Luca D'Amelio. There's a bit of a gap back to P3 with Semi Celik, hanging on to that P3 by only 2 points from Danilo Smeriglio, and 10 points back from David Junt, who surprisingly hasn't actually finished on the podium this season. And moving on to the GT3 standing, it is the familiar 2-horse race that we all have and know by now in the VLMC. Lorenzo Arisi extending his lead from James Johnson in the Zansho to 8 points. Now there is a monumental gap back to position 3 in the championship, but this is where it gets super tight, with the number 57 Zansho scraping it by a single point. Tony Mello's great debut performance there, standing in for Olivier Fortin, putting Zansho second and third not only in the race but in the championship. Position 4 is familiar face Mantis Rakers, who's had some very solid finishes in recent races, making up for his slow start at the beginning of the championship. And not far behind in P5 is Daniele Brambilla, with Nick De Silva still in P6 despite DNFing this race. Now you have to go all the way back to P9 in the standings, and at just 45 points, that is me. The results this season so far have really not reflected the true story of the pace, whether it be technical problems or just bad luck. However, you can't blame luck though, and excuses just do not fly in racing. And sadly, my points haul is lacking this season. Now, with only 2 races left to go, there is a limited time to make my way back up the standings, but I promise I'm going to give it absolutely everything I've got to finish the season on a high. The next round, which was originally meant to be at Portland, has now been switched over to the Virginia International Raceway due to the Portland circuit not officially being released by Studio 397. It will be keeping the same schedule, however, taking place on March the 21st, with the race starting at 3 PM GMT. And to round things off, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for their incredible support so far this season, tuning into the live streams and following my progress throughout this championship. You are all amazing, and I just can't wait to get back in the car again for the next race and see you all again. Now, if you enjoyed this review, then please leave a like to say thanks and share your thoughts in the comments. And to make sure you don't miss the end of the season, then if you haven't already, please subscribe and press that notification bell. I've been DDF Racer, thank you so much for watching, I'll see you all at the next race.